Hey, what's going on, comic fans? It's Mr. Q Comics back with another overdue haul video here. I've mentioned the past couple of videos I am way behind in showing off my pickups over the last few months. Just a lot of stuff going on personally that kind of derailed me from the schedule I was trying to get down. Anyways, this is a big lot of books that I picked up from a local dealer. Again, I've mentioned them before. It's an older couple that I just love buying from. They do a lot of local shows. Most of them are collectible shows. So most of these shows are a lot of sports memorabilia, baseball cards, stuff like that. And they're usually like the only comic book vendor. Sometimes there's toy vendors and stuff too. But I just love dealing with them. They treat me great with pricing. And they have usually a ton of great dollar books. They're more into the older books. The guy knows Silver Age a lot better than modern stuff. Doesn't keep up with, movie spec, TV show spec, stuff like that. So a lot of those things kind of go missed or sitting in the dollar bin. So you get a lot of great deals. So yeah, this is something, I think it was a show over the summer. So I got a big stack of dollar books and some keys, kind of the typical stuff I usually get from them. I usually walk out of one of their shows with a stack of 20 plus books. So we'll jump into the dollar books as usual. I've got Uncanny X-Men number 305. This was hot at the time I bought this. I think I found a few copies of these kicking around, and I think these got hot because of the Hickman series, House of X, Powers of 10. I think that's correct. Sometimes I get a little caught up in the hype with some of these things. It's the first cameo appearance of the Phalanx. Again, I sold a lot of copies, I think, because they showed up in the series or something like that. So these were $1, so I grabbed a couple. I figured, what the heck. They're probably very fine range, so not bad, but... All right. These I have mentioned before. Just some DC Universe logo pickups. I don't hunt these down too much, but if I find them in dollar bins, I will grab them. So we get a copy of Batman 510. Batman Legends of the Dark Knight number 62, which is a pretty cool Mike Mignola cover. I do like Mignola's art. Again, these are all probably very fine range. Legends of the Dark Knight number 63. We've got Shadow of the Bat number 30. And I don't know how rare these really are, these DC Universe logos. I've seen a lot of people showing them off. I've seen Key Collector mention them before. So again, if I find them for $1, I will grab them, but I don't typically hunt them down. Detective number 690. I have another copy of this as a DC Universe logo, but it is like super sharp. I can't find it though. I don't know what to do with it. I intended on getting it slabbed and trying to flip it, but can't seem to locate it. So... Last couple, Catwoman number 12 and Catwoman number 13. So, yeah, pretty cool. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of them. I'll buy them if they're cheap. I think, again, probably all very fine range. These dollar bins, a lot of the times the books are just floating and they're loose. They don't have bags or boards, so it's tough to get stuff near mint. Occasionally, he will reload if he's got a whole collection that's got like 80s or 90s stuff where someone had at least bagged them and they're all stuck together and no boards. But sometimes you'll find stuff that's in really great shape, but most of the time they're loose and they're getting banged around a little, but still a lot of good finds. Crisis on Infinite Earths number 6. I usually grab these when I find them, trying to complete the run. I can't even remember. I think I'm missing just a couple of issues. This one was actually in pretty good shape. This is probably very fine near mint. First appearance of the Anti-Monitor, and of course it's George Perez on all these covers. Most of these covers, I think, and the art, which is fantastic. Number 11 as well. This one is not in great shape. It looks good on the front, but I usually am not too picky with the dollar bin books. When I got home, it had a big water stain on the back, but I think I was missing number 11, so still a good addition. All right, grab the copy of Daredevil 255. This is from 1988. Again, very fine range. It's the second appearance of Typhoid Mary. John Romita Jr. on the cover. Definitely got that interesting John Romita Jr. style. I love his artwork on, the earlier stuff. I think he did work on Spectacular Spider-Man, at least earlier in the run. But this is kind of weird artwork on Daredevil for me. But for $1, I grabbed it. I think I have another copy of this as well. So, all right, I've been grabbing this series, and I'm sure I've shown it off. It's the Eternals, but it's the 80s miniseries. I totally dig the Marvel 80s miniseries. This is a 12-parter. So I grabbed a copy of number 3, which is in the very fine range. Number 4 is probably a little better, very fine near man. Both of these are Keith Pollard covers. Number 8, also a Keith Pollard cover. And finally, we got number 10. So these are, I find these pretty readily in dollar bins. So I've just been trying to put together the 12-issue run. I know there were a couple of minor keys in this run. I think one of them was the full appearance of Fastos, and I can't remember which issue it was out of that stack. But I think there was some talk that may be showing up in the movie. I'm not sure, but again, readily available in dollar bins. So I've been grabbing them when I find them. Another book, I'm sure I've shown this off before, or this series anyways. Invasion Book 2. This has got Todd McFarlane on some of the interiors. This one's in pretty good shape, probably very fine near mint. And I've bought this series multiple times over just because it's early McFarlane. I'll only buy them if I find them for $1 though. And again, very easy to find in the dollar bin, a lot of this stuff. Okay, speaking of McFarlane, I've shown these off numerous times, but I'm a sucker for the Marvel Tales books. A newsstand copy of 231. Paladin on the cover. I think that's Black Tom Cassidy. And another cool one. I love this one with X-Men in the background. Probably fine range, and I'm sure I have these, but I'm just a sucker for McFarlane stuff. And these covers he did in the early 90s. I think he did one on Quasar and Conan. I just love McFarlane's art. So, okay, a few more dollar bin books here. Let me see. I don't know, 7 or 8 more. Again, I've shown this off a ton. 2 copies of it. Justice League America, number 31, first Adam Hughes artwork on DC, I believe. And these are both in pretty good shape, probably very fine near mint. So for $1, I am not leaving them there, even though I have many, many copies. I think there's enough Hughes fans out there that those will find a home at some point. Another one I've shown off before. I feel like this entire stack is stuff I've shown before, but Marvel Age number 6. It's a preview of Beta Ray Bill. I feel like I showed this off in my last video too. Again, I find these all the time in the dollar bin, usually the same grade, mid-grade here. But for $1, I'm not going to pass it up. Anything with Beta Ray Bill is definitely worth it, I think, for $1. Definitely has picked up steam. Any of those books in the Thor run, I think it's 337. This is the first appearance, I think. Could be wrong, but definitely worth it for $1. Another copy of this I just showed off as well, at least the past couple videos. What If, number 39, cool newsstand copy. This is the first, I think it's the first battle of Thor and Conan. Ron Wilson cover, and it's got some Mike Mignola inks on it. Just a cool book from 1983. You know, Thor and Conan, yeah, definitely. All right, I grabbed Dark Horse number 36. I don't really have a ton of Dark Horse. Don't usually hunt this down. But of course, you know, definitely think the Predator and Aliens is pretty cool. So I think this is the first battle of Predator and Aliens from February of 1990. Again, very fine range, but for $1, I was definitely not leaving it. I've seen this many times over in other shops. Just to me, a book that's usually, I'll say like $20, I think, which to me, I'm not going to pay that. But for $1, I was happy to grab it. All right, some Valiant stuff. I'm pretty sure I have this. I never read Valiant when it came out. I was not a fan of most of the artwork. I know Barry Windsor Smith did some work on, I think, Archer and Armstrong. But this is, I think this is the first full appearance of, and I'm not sure how to say it, if it's Ninjak or Ninja K. I've heard it both ways. But it's his first appearance, so for $1, wasn't leaving that there. Another book I seem to find quite a bit in the dollar bins, or at least cheap, New Mutants number 14, which I've always seen it listed as the first appearance of Ilyana Rasputin as Magic. I saw I think it was a Comic Tom 101 video talking about this book recently, I think in the past couple weeks, and whether or not that actually is the first time she appears as Magic or is even mentioned as Magic. So I'm not sure, but this book still seems to get a lot of attention and has picked up a little bit. This is low grade, though. This is probably very good range. It's definitely got some soiling and not in the best of condition, but for $1, I was not going to leave it. All right, last two. Not a series I've ever really bought, but I knew I saw it for $1. I knew what it was, so I wasn't going to leave it there. Booster Gold, #1 newsstand copy, first appearance of Booster Gold. Again, I was surprised to find it for $1, and I think it just got hot, maybe recently after I picked it up. I think this got Dan Jurgens on the artwork from 1986. It had #2 as well, and I think they had the whole run, but I just grabbed issues 1 and 2. So pretty cool pickup. So that's probably the best from the dollar bin hauls, I would say. Pretty good shape. It's really not too beat up. It's just got some dings on the corner. I think a small crease. So, all right, let's get into a little bit more of the pricier stuff. X-Men #4. This is a sharp copy. Jim Lee cover. First appearance of Omega Red. Always one I'm going to grab when I find it on the cheap. Just got that feeling at some point something's going to happen with this villain. I remember really liking this villain reading this series, so I'm always surprised this book is pretty cheap to get. So I grab it whenever I can find it for cheap. Again, keyword cheap. Marvel Premiere 49. This is the first solo story of the Falcon, which I know got hot right after Endgame with the talk about Sam Wilson taking over as Captain America. Don't know if that's going to be coming up in the show or future Avenger movies or what, but this book picked up and, like they always do, kind of cooled back down shortly after. But this is probably VF range, and it was a few bucks, so I grab them when I find them. It's got a Frank Miller cover as well. So another Bronze Age here, Marvel Team Up #65. This one's pretty beat up, probably VG range, but it was only $3 from 1978. It's the first Captain Britain in U.S. Comics and first cameo of Arcade. Similar with the Omega Red, I just, anything with X-Men, you don't know what's going to be happening with them in the MCU, so, I don't think you can go wrong picking up any of this stuff. I can see Captain Britain working back into any of these future movies that may come up. All right, Daredevil 181, a newsstand copy. Not in the best of shape. I definitely have a better copy. This is the Death of Elektra. Not my favorite of the Frank Miller run covers, but it is Frank Miller story cover and art, and it was a good price, $7, and it's probably in the very fine range. So again, I've got it, but when the price is right, I can't leave stuff behind. A little more Daredevil here. This one I see a lot, but I'm just not willing to pay, $20 for a book like this for a minor character. It's $2.54. The first appearance of Typhoid Mary, so it was $4, and it's probably high VF near mint. Again, John Romita Jr. on the cover. So, I see this at like $20-$25, and I don't really remember her being a huge character. I think it spiked with one of the Netflix shows that is now canceled. Was it season 3 of Daredevil? I can't remember. I didn't see season 3 of Daredevil, but definitely not a book that I was going to pay big bucks for. So happy to find it for a few dollars. That's definitely more in line with my price point. All right, back to some more Eternal stuff. This stuff was a little pricier. These books are tougher to come by at cheap prices. Eternals #12, the original run from 77. So this is the first Unimind. I don't know if there's spec that this character may show up in the movie. I think there is. I see a lot of the spec news kind of changing frequently. This was about $7. This one's pretty high grade in the VF range, so happy to find that. And I just he had a few Eternals books, so I just grabbed what he had. So I've got a lot of these multiple times over now. #18, first Zirin the Tester and Tiamat the Communicator. I have no idea who those are. Again, very fine range. I got 2 of them. One was like $5.50, something like that. One was like $7. So I grabbed them both. I figured it was worth getting. Again, if I'm not going to be spending $20-$30 on some of these, and I do see some shops throwing some of these, any of them from the run for like $30 on the wall, I won't be paying that. But if I can find them for a few dollars and they're in good enough shape, I've been snatching them up. And 19, which I think is just the final issue of the run. Again, very fine range, and was about $5. All right, a few more Bronze Age books. giant size Master of Kung Fu, which is the first Shadow Stalker and Clive Reston. This has got a Gil Kane cover. It's from 1975. I don't remember if this is a key or not. I don't think it is, but it was a few bucks, so I think it was $3. So I grabbed it. It's got a little bit of a hole near the logo, but still. All right, this was a great find. I love this book. I grab it anytime I find it. If I find it cheap, common theme, Avengers Annual number 10. It's low grade, but it's only $5, so it's probably very good. And I definitely have, I think I've got a 9.4 this slabbed and a few raw copies. I've grabbed a few of those, a few of these. Again, just because of, MCU spec, and when the X-Men show up, I just feel like characters like Rogue and Psylocke and some of these female characters that I loved when I was reading in the late 80s and early 90s, just feel like these books will spike at some point. So for $5, absolutely grabbing it. This is Chris Claremont on the story and then Al Milgrom cover and artwork. Okay, last few books. Let's see. I think it's all silver from here on out. Okay, this was cheap, and this series does not get a lot of attention at all. Captain Marvel number 15. I mean, you can find a lot of these Silver Age books pretty cheap. I don't think this has got any importance to it whatsoever, but I just thought the cover is ridiculous. The colors are gorgeous on this thing. 1969. This is Marie Severin on the cover. Gary Friedrich story and Tom Sutton pencils. It's mid-grade, probably very good find, but man, I just thought the colors were phenomenal. I don't think I had it. I think I have 1 through, I don't know, maybe 13. I'm missing like number 2, but I can usually find these for a couple bucks each. I think this was like $3. I'm just a little surprised it never gets, no one ever seems to pick up Captain Marvel. It's like Doctor Strange and Strange Tales. Those Silver Age books always seem to be really affordable. Daredevil number 27 from 1967. Cool yellow cover. Spidey's my main character, so any Spider-Man crossover books I love to grab. This is Stan Lee on the story, and it's got a Gene Colan cover and Gene Colan art. So lower grade, very good, but I think it was like $8. Another Silver Age book I have shown off a ton. I don't know how many of these I have. Got to be 5 or 6 now. Fantastic Four, King Size Special number 5. This is, again, the first Silver Surfer solo story. It's tough to get an FF48 cheap, but man, this is a minor Silver Surfer key that is definitely worth picking up. This is probably mid-grade, probably one of the better copies I have, and this was $11. Again, Stan Lee story, Jack Kirby cover and art. I find it cheap all the time. I just think it goes overlooked. I think there's also a reprint of this where it's a red cover, but it's the same story. I can't remember what it is. I think it's giant size Fantastic Four number 6, but it's this book. And I feel like this guy actually mixed them up because I think I see him with the reprint and he has that one marked like it's this book, if that makes sense. But yeah, this one seems to be easy to find in most shops, guys. So if you're looking for Silver Surfer keys, if you're a Fantastic Four fan, this is a great book to grab. And if you like to spec, this is something you can find on the cheap, I think, and hold on to. All right, last 3, the bigger books here. This was an upgrade for me. I have this in super low grade. Thor 166. This one is just really nice. Nice cover. Really sharp. High VF range, I think. Mine is, the one I have is bad. This is the second appearance of him. Stan Lee story, Kirby cover, and Kirby art from 1969. Higher grade. I paid more than I would probably want to have paid for this, but it was $28, but it's very fine range, and yeah, that's why I paid it. I think the low grade copy I got for a few bucks, so I was happy to upgrade it. And all right, back to the last 2. We'll get into some Captain Marvel. Again, these books were hot at one point, and with the Captain Marvel movie, I think they have cooled off quite a bit. I see this book pretty cheap now. I found it years ago without a back cover for like $10. I was psyched this guy had it, and it much better shape than mine, but I didn't really notice it. I noticed it before I left, but it's got chew marks all down the bottom. But the rest of it, it's too bad. It's really nice shape, except for that. So I have no clue what that does to the grade. I'm assuming it's in the good, very good range. So it was under $30. First appearance of Captain Marvel, Gene Colan cover, Stan Lee story, and Gene Colan art on the Captain Marvel story. So, and this book, the last one, this was affordable. Again, I have never had this, Marvel Superheroes featuring Captain Marvel number 13. This book was crazy expensive at one point, but I definitely have seen it cool down. First appearance, of course, of Carol Danvers, Gene Colan cover, Roy Thomas story, and Gene Colan art on the Captain Marvel story. Same probably grade. It's good, very good, but man, when I see this on shop walls, it's well over $100. So this was like $50. It's lower grade, but not a book that I needed to have in higher grade. I was just psyched to find it at an affordable price, and I'm glad I didn't pay up big bucks when the movie was out to get this, but I am happy to add it into the collection. It's just funny though how some of these books spike like crazy, and I could be wrong. It seems like this book cooled off quite a bit after the Captain Marvel movie. So, anyways, that is the haul, guys. As always, if you enjoyed it, please hit the like button, leave some comments below, subscribe. I'll be trying to put out more videos here. I got more stacks of books, like I mentioned, to get through here. I got a lot of stuff. So I will see you all soon. Thanks.